HTV.
You know what I like about my morning commute? It's time to reflect. Ponder those big questions. Who are we? Why are we here? Sometimes you just gotta take those bumps in the road and keep on moving forward.
Dude, you couldn't possibly be any more wrong. Stop the car.
That's deep, like me. I can respect that.
Dude, it's a pothole. I could report it to Hillsborough County right now as a customer service request. Just choose your service and select the issue. Your browser pinpoints the problem, and you can add any important information and even take a picture. It puts Hillsborough County at your service 24/7.
Well, all right.
Flossing in the morning is a really great way to keep your teeth healthy and start the day. But when you're through, here's what you do. Throw it in the trash, don't flush it. There's a problem lots of people don't know, called sanitary sewer overflow. A condition buried deep in the ground, inside a pipe where bad clouds are found. It's a problem we can all help solve, so throw it in the trash, don't flush it. Baby wipes, bandages, cotton pads, paper towels, dental floss, clog up bad. Medicines, kitty litter, cotton swabs, hair. Throw them in the trash, don't flush it. It just takes a second to do the right thing, so toss it and let's keep our pipes clean. Throw it in the trash, don't flush it. If it's not toilet paper, don't flush it. Even if it says you can, don't flush it. If you're having any doubts, don't flush it. One more time, don't flush it.
Is your local business or organization looking to give back to the community? Help keep our roads clean by joining the Adopt a Road program administered by Keep Tampa Bay Beautiful. Keeping our roads clean is a great way for team building as well as exposure for your business. Select the road your business wants to adopt and dispatch a team to remove litter and debris. Participants will receive 2 signs showing their organization's name as well as safety equipment and instructions for cleaning roads. You can help keep Tampa Bay beautiful by adopting your own road today. To learn more, visit hcflgov.net/cleanhc.
20 seconds is all it takes for a toddler to drown. In less time than it takes to post on social media or change the laundry, a child can slip out a door and silently drown. Nearly all the children who drowned last year in the Tampa Bay area were last seen inside their home. Visit PreventNeedlessDeaths.com right now to learn more about simple steps you can take today to save a child's life.
Tampa Bay is like no place else.
Wait, you can't recycle the bag? You have to throw it away.
Proper recycling keeps it that way for everyone. Bags tangle in machinery and can bring sorting efforts to a halt.
No bags.
Trash the bags and keep our recycling program moving forward.
No, Mom, look, no plastic bags.
Do your part to keep our recycling bag-free. Trash the tanglers or return them to participating retailers. For more information, visit TampaBayRecycles.org.
Hey, the new house looks great. How are you liking it here?
Well,
You wouldn't expect this in your home.
What?
Why on earth would you do it in ours? Hillsborough County put waste in its place.
This is Dave. Dave doesn't know his home's flood zone and was not able to heed flood warnings. Dave and his home are soaked. This is Noah. Noah is an informed citizen. He was warned in advance about potential flooding in his area. Noah took precautions. Noah is dry.
And I saved the animals too.
Good job, Noah. When it comes to flood warnings, be like Noah, not like Dave. For more information, visit hcfl.gov.net. Be safe, be informed, know your flood zone.
Oh man, here comes Arnie again. Check this out.
What's up, Arnie? What are you doing? You made a mess in my hallway.
Hey, Arnie. Looks like you could use a hand. Let me help you.
You don't need superpowers to be a hero. Help make Hillsboro bully-free.
Hey,
Good morning, and welcome to this meeting of the, am I not on? There we go. Good morning. Welcome to this meeting of the HART Board of Directors, August 2nd. The meeting format is hybrid, with our quorum physically present at County Center, while some of the board members and others are participating virtually. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And will staff please take attendance?
Good morning. Director Castor?
Here.
Director Frazier? Director Johnson?
Here.
Director Kemp? Here. Director Knight?
Here.
Director McLean?
Here.
Director Myers?
Here.
Director Oberman?
Here.
Director Schisler?
Here.
Chair Smith?
Here.
Director Vieira? Director Williams? Madam Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you very much. So at this point, our first agenda item is approval of the minutes from July. Okay, we have a motion for approval and a second. I think the motion was Director McLean and second by Director Kemp. So let's have a roll call vote.
Director Castor?
Yes.
Director Frazier? Director Johnson?
Yes.
Director Kemp?
Yes.
Director Knight?
Yes.
Director McLean?
Yes.
Director Myers?
Yes.
Director Overman?
Yes.
Director Schisler?
Yes.
Chair Smith?
Yes.
Director Vieira? Director Williams? Motion passes.
Thank you. And at this time, we'll have public input. Our General Counsel, Ms. Mandel, will read into the record the rules for public participation. Ms. Mandel?
Good morning, everybody. The board welcomes public comment about any issues and concerns and has made provisions to allow for virtual public comment. Public comments offered virtually will be afforded equal consideration as if they were offered in person. Anyone wanting to provide public comment for any HART committee or board should contact Danielle Arthur, Board Administrator at arthurd@gohart.org or at 813-955-2426 with your name and phone number for pre-registration. Comments are due by 5 p.m. the day previous of the meeting. Staff will call on speakers by name in the order in which registrations are received. All callers will be muted upon calling and unmuted in the submission order after being recognized by name. Please state your full name, your organization, and address if desired. Up to 3 minutes are allowed for each speaker, and the speaker will be muted once time is up. Staff, please proceed with public comment.
Thank you. Do we have anyone pre-registered who wishes to comment?
Yeah.
We have one speaker,
Mm-hmm.
or one person for public comment. Jenna Bourne.
Hi, can you hear me? Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we hear you.
Hi, my name is Jenna Bourne. I'm an investigative reporter at 10 Tampa Bay. HART's Public Records Department is refusing to share any records of the ethics investigation into Carolyn House Stewart, claiming it's still an active investigation. That investigation started 1 year ago, in August of 2020. During your board meeting on March 1st, Chair Mariella Smith said she would ask the investigating attorney to provide a final report of their findings and a final invoice. On March 20th, that law firm got paid. In May, Carolyn House Stewart got tens of thousands of dollars in a settlement, including severance, vacation payouts, and attorney's fees. I've been asking questions about this for months and have been met with silence. So now I've had to turn to public comment to get answers for the taxpayers who paid tens of thousands of dollars for an investigation where the results were never made public, and they paid for the subject of that investigation to leave. So as a board that says they value transparency, my questions are, is that investigation still active? Was it halted to keep the results secret? Who knows what the investigators found? And why was Carolyn House Stewart paid to leave?
Does that conclude your comments, Ms. Bourne?
It does, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Mandel, you're recognized.
Yes, board members, this remains an active investigation, and pursuant to public records law, we are not obligated to provide those documents until that investigation has concluded. And the other comments I would prefer not to make in a public forum. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And just for the board's understanding, we have, with this caller, as we do with everyone, provide all the public records that are available that when anybody asks for them, and we have handled Ms. Bourne's requests in the same way. So if there's any public records further that she needs, she can get those in the usual way. Is there any other public comment?
That was all we had for public comment.
Thank you. That takes us to agenda item 4. We have an action item, one action item that has not been reviewed by a HART board committee.
Yes, good morning, Madam Chair, board members. We have a pretty, I would say, short agenda today. It seems like we just met a couple of days ago. So what we need to do today are two significant things. One, we're going to present to you our proposed amended fiscal 21 budget. And that's what's on the agenda now. And, you know, the resolution is for your approval, but what we thought would be helpful is to walk through the process and have Ms. Joanne Caceres walk us through the amendment for the 2021 budget. So she is available, and she's set up. I see Joanne at the end of the table here. And she'll walk through the presentation, and then we'll have a conversation about the amended budget, and then hopefully gain your approval. So, Joanne?
Yes, good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board, and Ms. LeGrand. Today, I will present the fiscal year 21 proposed budget amendment. The Florida statute allows for a budget amendment, and HART policy states that budget amendments that increase the annual appropriations require the approval of the HART board following a duly advertised public hearing. HART policy further states that appropriations from the undesignated fund balance may be made to increase the overall appropriation with the board approval. On September 28th, the HART board adopted the fiscal year 21 budget. That was September 28th, 2020. The board resolution you will act on today is necessary to increase the appropriations of the operating fund and to authorize the transfer of funds to cover the increase in the appropriations. In my presentation, I will cover the fiscal year 2021 proposed operating revenues and expenses budget amendment and public outreach efforts. The fiscal year 21 proposed amended operating budget is a balanced budget. In addition to the increase in the expenses that I will show in the next chart, the fiscal year 21 revenues are expected to decrease $7.3 million, primarily to the decrease in fare and pass revenues and other grants and local contributions. The fare and pass revenues are expected to be approximately 50% of budgeted amount due to the impact of the COVID-19. The revenues from CARES Act was less than budgeted due to timing. The full amount of the $39.8 million was received. However, more funds were received in fiscal year 20 than budgeted and less in fiscal year 21. This chart shows the fiscal year 21 proposed amended operating budget by expense category. The adopted appropriation is $95.6 million, and the proposal is to increase the appropriation to $99.2 million. This is $3.6 million, or 3.8% greater than the fiscal year 21 adopted operating budget. Personnel costs are projected to increase by $5.6 million due to the retroactive payment of wages to ATU employees. In addition, wage increases for ATU employees were effective May 2nd, 2021. All other operating expenses are expected to decrease by $2 million. The net in the increase in wages and the decrease in operating expenses is $3.6 million. In addition, HART will be required to use $4 million of funds from reserves to balance the fiscal year 21 budget. So as stated, the budget amendment required a public hearing. Staff put together an extensive public outreach schedule starting July 14th and ending with the public hearings on July 28th. This slide lists the communication methods we employed to reach out to the public. And in addition to the postings on our website, a notice for 2 public hearings was advertised in the local newspapers, La Gaceta, the Tampa Bay Times, and Florida Sentinel Bulletin. The public hearings were held on Wednesday, July 28th at the HART Marion Transit Center at 11:30 a.m. and 5:30 p.m. So we received public comments from one person that expressed their satisfaction about the operator's retro pay. Other comments from the individual were not related to the amended budget, but were questions about the budget in general. So one of the questions is his concern was, first, after expressing that he was happy to hear that the drivers are going to get the pay they deserve as needed, his question was with regards to where the funds would be coming from. And then we provided a response with regards to the request for funds being transferred from the reserves to cover this expense. Another question that he made non-related to the budget amendment was how many more buses will HART be getting? And he expressed that he also heard HART might be getting electric buses. And also half of the buses are aging and falling apart. And I'm just reading as he mentioned. And then he also said they go over bumps and the entire vehicle rattles. They look like they're on their last leg. They're obsolete. So that was one of his concerns also. And what we did mention to him that today we were going to bring to the board the tentative fiscal year 21 capital budget summary, which would consider investments or use in rolling stock and maintenance for the vehicles. Another question on his behalf was how, non-related to the amendment, but how is HART going to use money for bus stops outside? He says the transit way is a total waste. I thought that AV was supposed to run up and down the transit way, but I haven't seen it anymore. And his question is what's going on with that. So present was customer service, a representative from customer service, which shared that they will follow up with the person that expressed their opinion regarding the future of AVs and bus purchases and the transit way. So no other comments were received, and regarding during that period of July 14th through July 28th. So this concludes my presentation. I will be glad to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's a good, thorough presentation, and I'm glad to hear the summary of the public input as well and get this opportunity for early beginning of our discussion of the budget. Councilman Schisler, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Very good presentation. Thank you very much. I did have a question and then a supplemental comment. My question is the retro pay. What is the impact going forward of the retro pay? In other words, how much is that increase going to be in 2022? I realize it's not we're not discussing 2022 here, but it's a relativity concern of mine. And you may not have that answer today, but if we could have it for the finance meeting, that would be a help. My comment is the fund balances that we're left with at the end of this year or proposed to at the end of the year. Keep in mind we're at about a $15 million fund balance, and we received about $40 million, or 30-some, maybe $40 million in COVID money. We could have been in real deep trouble without that. We need to keep this in mind going forward. Particularly, we have to do this. This is important to keep us street legal. But we need to make sure that our budget next year is a sane one and a safe one, so that we can, weather what could be another COVID storm. That's my comment, but I would be prepared to make a motion when it's appropriate.
Thank you. And is there, does staff want to address that question now, or?
Well, I can address at least one of them, which is the projection. We project to have in gross pay, it would be $5.3 million. With fringe, well, $6.4 million would be the impact of the increase.
Thank you. And Director McLean, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and great presentation. Thank you. I actually have two questions. One's more of a procedural question, and the other one, of course, is a financial question. The procedural question is, I know we highlighted that it wasn't reviewed by any committees. Is there a reason the Finance Committee didn't review this prior? It seems like they had plenty of time.
So we didn't have any committee meetings in the month of July.
Okay.
So we just had our board meeting, which was July 19th. And July was a unique month because of the holiday. So not holiday, but vacation for the county. So what we wanted to do to make sure that we were able to get your support for this item was to bring it to the full board in lieu of waiting till our next committee meeting, which would be in 2 weeks. So we really wanted to get this taken care of today, because the next thing on our agenda is to present to you the tentative budget for 2022, which will take the majority of our committee meeting time in the 2 weeks to really go through the upcoming budget.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. And the budget question is, what is our reserve balance right now?
Well, what we expected when we go into the October 1st, 2021, we have various components for the operating expenses. We project to have $15.1 million going into October 1st, the fiscal year. And then we have other reserves that we mentioned in the Finance and Audit Committee, which were the self-insured reserves, which is a risk reserve of $6.7 million. We have a self-insurance reserve for medical benefits, and that's at $546,000. The capital match is a $4.5 million, and that reserve is basically used for aging of outdated or inoperational capital infrastructure replacement. And then we have $1.2 million, which is not a requirement, but we do have $1.2 million, which is a reserve in the event that we have to pay the Federal Transit Administration for equipment prematurely taken out of service.
Okay. All right. Very good. Thank you.
Commissioner Overman, you're recognized.
Thank you. And thank you for such a clear understanding of how things changed. I did have a couple of questions about what we originally adopted and then what we ended up with as an amendment. And this relates to some of the conversations we've had of recent. I see that there was a 75% increase in advertising income, which is significant. And we've had recently a conversation about how do we go about not only raising revenues, but how do we go about addressing some of the concerns about being able to see and the branding and those kinds of things. Can you help me understand kind of why that was so off?
Well, for the fiscal year 21 projection, we had the increase in revenues due to the Super Bowl. And so we had advertising revenue increased primarily to the bus advertising, and the projections were made based on the marketing demands.
Okay, all right, great. That's helpful to understand. So obviously it's a nice revenue source, but we just need to make sure we're holding the good, or at least getting updates on what's coming in, and so that we can act accordingly and make good decisions with that information. The other concern I have is trying to make sure I understand the significant change to the fare and pass revenue. Can staff give us some guidance on how much of that was due to COVID and how much of that was due to route changes or just behavioral changes that occurred in that year? Do you know?
Well, basically, based on my discussion with the manager that works with this, it's primarily due to the COVID and pattern and the change.
Okay. So I know that a lot of the CARES dollars with the Federal Transit Administration was to address the fact that we would have fare loss. And yet we didn't really make that up. But we did, is that because we put so much into reserves and didn't have it allocated towards a fair revenue drop?
Well, the change that we currently have with the reason why we're requesting the 4.4 million is because of the decrease that we did have, and we can see that we expected to drop into fund balance when we did the fiscal year 21 budget, 6.9 million, but instead we actually are using the 4 million, and that 6.9 is compensating for the reduction in the revenues.
Okay, great. And then lastly, I know at the county, when we really looked and fine-tuned the ad valorem numbers and got updates on it, we found that there was a higher number than we anticipated, largely due to the real estate values increasing significantly. Have the tax revenue numbers here been adjusted for the recent adjustments to ad valorem amounts? Or are we using what was estimated in a prior date?
We are currently using what was estimated for the fiscal year 21 budget, the adopted budget. When we go over the fiscal year 22 projection, you will see the increase.
Okay, great. That's answers my questions. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And Director Johnson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Quick question for you on as far as on the fund balance. Are we required to have a certain percentage of fund balance set aside based off of the, I guess, the finances of the organization?
So we're required to have 90 days of operating expenses in our fund balance.
Okay, so the amount that we currently have right now, is that like right at 90 days, or where are we at kind of in relation to, we're in a really bad spot, or we have a lot in fund balance then?
So the 15.1 million that we are going to have in a couple of, or the amount that we expect to have for 10-1 would represent a 57% of the required fund balance, amount that we should have in operating.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Kemp, if I skipped over you, I'm sorry. I thought these come in order, but.
They do.
Okay.
I just put my hand up.
All right, Commissioner Kemp.
I just wanted to say I'm really pleased with the budget. I think it's the budget I feel most secure with in the past 5 years that I've ever seen. I think you just said the fund balance, the reserves of 15.1 million make up 57% of what we're supposed to have for 90 days. But for those of you who've not been on this board, we had zero before. We had zero. And I think it was hard to explain to other board members that that's what it was. We had no money. This is an incredible increase in what we have put aside for reserves, because I used to hold up the budget here and say, I was afraid we weren't at times going to be making our payrolls, and we got very close to not making them towards the end of the fiscal year, right about now. It would dip down so close in the last couple of years. So I think that there's been several things done, and one, to wisely set aside these reserves. I think this is the first time we've ever actually, correct me if I'm wrong, had medical reserves. I know the first year that I was on this board, our medical went from 3 million to 7 million unexpectedly, and caused a fiscal crisis that resulted in what is Mission Max to cut. But this was just to get the bare bones. There was no reserves in there. So this, just historically, this is incredibly assuring to me. We are still the most underfunded transit system in the nation for a metro area this size, not by a little bit, but by a huge amount. And to generate a budget like this is really quite remarkable, and I feel assured by it. The other thing I feel very assured by is the raise in pay. I'm glad that we were finally able to do that for our operators. They're what make our system work. They've had a really difficult year. We, as I understand, have lost operators to, they can have jobs delivering for Amazon and other, it's a big industry now, and they can pay more, they don't have to worry, or they can get paid more, they don't have to worry about the kinds of things that you worry about as bus drivers. And our transit operators are an amazing crew, and I hope that in the future we can do more, because I still think that the salary level for the majority of our transit drivers, especially for our new ones, is that needs to change. So I'm, I want to see that go up in the future. But I also would very much like to say to Ms. LeGrand, I feel as though we have right-sized our transit services. We were promising too much in the past for the revenue that we had. And I think that it's better to promise what you can do and do it than to overpromise and not operate. So I think we're at a much more transparent place, a much stronger place, and a place that we can move into the future with this budget. So good job on this. And if, I don't know if other people are going to talk, but if Mr. Schizler, Councilman Schizler would like to make the motion, I'd be happy to second it.
Thank you. And Mayor Castor, you're recognized.
Thank you. I too commend Ms. LeGrand and the entire HART board that participated in the crafting of this budget. I know how difficult that is, especially when you have the limited funding. So congratulations also for the drivers to be able to raise, as Commissioner Kemp said, to be able to raise their salaries just a little bit was wonderful, and hopefully we'll be able to continue to do that until we reach a point where they are being compensated adequately for the job done. I have two questions, and one just a quick one because I don't have a great deal of experience in budgeting, but all of the budgets that I've been involved in always had a percentage of the total budget for fund balance as opposed to 90-day operating costs. So it may be just sort of a tomato type thing, but that's one question. And then the other is the reduction in the streetcar. If someone could just give me a quick explanation of that. Otherwise, I too am very happy with this budget and where HART has come in a short amount of time. Thank you.
Yes, staff, you recognize Ms.
Yes, I
Caceres.
didn't get the second question. I didn't hear it well, sorry, Mayor.
The streetcar, the reduction in the streetcar under the operating revenue from 763,000 to 339,000.
So you have, it's on the revenues, it's the Tampa Historic Streetcar. There's
Yes, operating revenue summary on that page.
Right, so when I see the operating revenue summary for streetcar, we have an increase from the adopted budget to the, am I on the right line? The adopted budget to the proposed amended budget of 102,000. Yes, please, sorry.
No, I don't. The Tampa Historic Streetcar?
Yes.
Says the operating revenue summary, the pages aren't numbered. But from 700, well, FY21 budget, 661,000, and then the 22 budget is 339,000, for a projected reduction of 423.
So we are presenting currently the proposed fiscal year 21 operating budget amendment, and that's on slide 3 of the revenues are presented on slide 3. And if we go to the Tampa Historic Streetcar, we had a projected, an adopted budget of 661,000, and for the fiscal year 21 proposed budget, 763,000. So actually, there was an increase in the contribution that the Tampa Historic Streetcar provided for the purpose of this presentation and the amendment.
Okay,
This is,
that's not the one that I'm looking at, but I can just take it offline. I was looking at the 22 budget, not the 21.
thank you.
That's it.
Thank you. And that may come up in the next item, number 5. Mayor Castor, this is, yeah, so hang tight and we'll get there. And I just will, seeing no further comment, I'll just wrap up with saying too that I think it was a miracle and a job well done that we have been able to make this amendment and work out a satisfactory payment schedule with our union employees while given that they have been patiently waiting, hoping for the sales tax revenue to come in that didn't materialize. And in the absence of that, we were still able to negotiate a pay increase and well-deserved, as they have been the essential workers facing the public, dealing with the public throughout a year of pandemic. So I'll just echo the comments that have been made by others, that I'm very, very pleased that we have been able to do that and hope we can do more as well. So at this point, I'll ask for a motion.
Move to approve resolution R2021-08-36.
Second, Commissioner Kemp.
Great. Got a motion to approve by Councilman Schisler, second by Commissioner Kemp. Let's take a roll call vote.
Director Castor,
Yes.
Director Johnson,
Yes.
Director Kemp,
Yes.
Director Knight,
Yes.
Director McLean,
Yes.
Director Myers,
Yes.
Director Overman,
Yes.
Director Schisler,
Yes.
Chair Smith,
Yes.
Director Vieira,
Yes.
Director Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. We're getting really good at that, at that roll call vote. Okay. Item number 5, the fiscal year 2022 tentative HART budget. That goes back to Ms. Caceres.
So what we're going to do here is now move forward to the 2022 budget. And the intention here is to provide you with an overview of the 22 budget, so that between now and our Finance Committee meeting, if you have any questions, you can share those with us, and we can use the Finance Committee meeting as the opportunity to really answer the questions that you may have. But this is pretty dense, so we thought it would be good to walk you through the layout of the presentation, and you'll have it to at your convenience to go through and mark it up with any questions that you may have. So Ms. Caceres will walk us through. Again, if you have questions today, please do not hesitate to ask. But again, the intention is so that we can have the appropriate amount of time at the Finance Committee meeting to really delve into the questions. Ms. Caceres.
Thank you. So again, good morning, Madam Chair and members of the board, and Mr. LeGrand, thank you. On June 21st, I presented the fiscal year 22 tentative HART budget to the Finance and Audit Committee. And today I will brief the full board on this fiscal year 22 tentative HART budget and the assumptions included in the budget. So I will cover an overview of the operating statistics, the operating revenues and expenses, the preliminary capital revenues and expenses, fund balance reserves, and finally, the next steps for review and adoption of the budget. Over the next month, like Ms. Grant mentioned, we will continue to discuss this budget and anticipate the approval of the full board in September. So HART provides 3 major services: fixed route, paratransit, and streetcar. This is a 4-year comparison of revenue miles, revenue hours, and ridership. For fiscal year 22, the operating budget supports service levels for these transportation modes at a total of $9.3 million revenue miles, 668,000 revenue hours, and a ridership of 8.7 million. The fiscal year 22 operating revenues are budgeted at $105.6 million, which is $6.3 million greater than the fiscal year 21 projection, or an increase of 6.4%. There were a few changes made since the June presentation, and these are highlighted in yellow. So the property appraiser certified the preliminary tax values, and the ad valorem increased to $56.9 million. We are budgeting on the ad valorem line. You can see we are budgeting $967,000 of the ad valorem revenue for capital. And with regards to the state operating grants, they're expected to increase by $450,000 due to a new Florida Department of Transportation Service Development grant. And this is for the new Route 11, which is to service the downtown Tampa through the West Shore Plaza. So this is a chart of the total operating revenues by revenue source and the percentage that they represent within the total budget. The primary source of the revenues for fiscal year 22, again, is from ad valorem, which is projected at $56.9 million, or 53% of the total budget. On this chart, the revenue is presented net of the projected transfer to capital of the $967,000. In terms of federal relief funding, this budget includes the $15.7 million in the Coronavirus Response and Relief Supplemental Appropriations Act of 2021, referred to as the CARISA Act. The projected expenses have not changed since they were presented to the Finance and Audit Committee in June. The fiscal year 22 operating expenses are budgeted at $105.6 million, which is $6.3 million greater than the fiscal year 21 projection, or an increase of 6.4%. This is a chart of the total operating expenses by expense category and the percentage that these costs represent within the total budget. The primary expenses are salaries and wages, which are projected at $51.8 million, or 49% of the total budget. Fringe benefits without health care are projected at 3 million, or 11% of the total budget. These costs are budgeted at 21.8% of total salaries. Healthcare costs are projected at $9.9 million, or 9% of total budget. These costs are budgeted at 19% of total salaries, net of employee contributions. All other expenses represent a 30% of the total budget. We are budgeting for 836.5 full-time equivalent positions. So the tentative capital budget is $57.5 million. The funding source for the capital program is a combination of federal, state, local grants, and HART will also contribute $8.3 million. So this is a chart of the total capital revenues by source and the percent that they represent within the total budget. The primary source of capital revenue is the federal capital grants, projected at 39 million, or 69% of the total budget. These are capital expenditures by project categories. We will use the majority of our funding for rolling stock and maintenance, projected at 24.4 million, or 42% of the total budget. 14.5 million, or 25% in facilities and construction. 6.3 million, or 11% in technology, and 12.2 million, or 22% in all other expenses categories listed. This slide summarizes the various reserves, as we mentioned in the other presentation, but we expect to begin fiscal year 22 with an operating reserve of 15.1 million. And based on our 90-day reserve policy and a $105 million operating budget, the goal is to have $26 million in reserves. So as we continue to develop the budget, we will provide an estimate of where we expect the reserves to be at the end of fiscal year 22. These are the next steps leading up to the adoption for the budget in September. So in August 16th, there's a Finance and Audit Committee scheduled to be held, where Ms. Legrand mentioned that we will continue discussions on the proposed fiscal year 22 operating and capital budgets. On September 13th, the first public hearing is scheduled on the tentative fiscal year 22 millage rate and proposed budget. The Board of Directors, there's a full Board of Directors meetings to adopt the tentative fiscal year 22 millage rate and the budget. And 2 weeks after is on September 27th, there's a second and final public hearing on the fiscal year 22 millage rate and budget, and a Board of Directors meeting to adopt the final millage rate and adopt the final annual budget. So this concludes my presentation, and I will be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Councilman Schisler, you're recognized.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Would it be possible for staff to put together a bridge of the changes year over year at a 30,000-foot level as to what the major components of the increases or any of the changes are, be it revenue or expense, for the Finance Committee meeting? That would be a big help to me in understanding what the changes are and how we can, how it's going to impact the organization. Thank you. That would be a big help to me.
Thank you. Yes, Commissioner Overman.
Thank you. I wasn't sure if my light lit up or not, so I apologize. Thank you very much. This is really very helpful to see not only, how things are changing, but it also reflects much of what we anticipate will be our future to some degree based on decisions we've made at the board level as well as within the committee levels. Questions I will have for the Finance Committee to make sure that you're prepared. On the page 10, where we're talking about the projected summary, there are some changes there that caught my eye based on some of our previous conversations. For example, we're going to be working on our strategic plan on how HART grows and things that we can do in order to maximize the efficiency and the effectiveness of our routes. And yet I see a 14% decrease in the planning and studies, which I'm not really crazy about planning and studies, but I recognize that they're kind of necessary as we go through this process. So that caught my eye to kind of get a better understanding of where that comes from. If it's being rolled into that cost, it's being rolled into the grant applications, then that makes sense. So I just wanted to kind of check that. On the revenue side, I know we can't count our chickens before we have eggs, but I do think that it does appear as though we will have an opportunity to take advantage of the infrastructure bill as it as it's being proposed now in Congress. So I know we can't put that number in here now, but that again would affect planning and strategy. So I don't expect to see significant changes there, but there have been some things that have come out that transit has available to it. So identifying that which may come in infrastructure grants or CARES grants for transit-related activities, identifying those resources as they play a part of our 22 budget, I think would be very important to this board. As we do know, we still have a pandemic. We still will deal with the fact that ridership will fall some as a consequence of people being afraid, and the fact that we have businesses that are already having to shut down their doors because their employees are testing positive. So it's going to be a little bit longer road than we want, but I think we do need to be actively prepared for how we will adjust to help people know that they're safe when they ride transit and they can still use transit to be able to get to work. I'd also like to see in the future, as we address budgets and advertising, as I mentioned earlier, is ways that we can reach out to corporations to assist in having them help us in encouraging their employees to use transit where it makes sense. You know, where we have those locations and where we've identified corporate partners in supporting our budget, our efforts, and the revenues that come in the door, given that we've seen a decline in revenue income come in the future. I do also want to see us find ways to continue the progress we're making on the barriers to entry. If the Flamingo project is working, we need to make sure that we're telling people that, here's the easy way to make sure there's nothing going to get in the way for you getting on a bus. And then investigate ways that we can get corporations to assist us in making that an employee benefit to encourage ridership. So there's a lot of things in our budget that will ultimately at some point in time change, but I appreciate giving us the good understanding of how the changes over the next year, how you've made those changes based not only on revenues, but also in anticipating expenses. Well done, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Overman. There was something you said I didn't understand is working the what project?
The Flamingo project,
Thank
the
you.
fare project, where we're creating a uniform fare allowance so that you can use either mobile.
Absolutely.
or
Thank you
online
very
tours.
much. I was like, Toledo project? What? Right. Thanks. I just couldn't get it. Is there any other comment? Commissioner Kemp, you're recognized.
Thanks. And I guess just a big picture, I think that's important for everybody to recognize about transit is, and this budget is true to form, transit agencies spend about 70% on personnel. Our operations, the insurance for our operations. So whenever you hear people talking about, let's get smaller buses to save money or something like that, it doesn't save money because you still need your driver, whether it's small or big. But what you do is cause a lot of confusion about if your routes grow, you don't have space, especially during COVID, for those, for people boarding those buses. It's important for us to think about that as we're going forward, because that's a perennial thing that is said, not just here in the Tampa Bay area, but in other places as well. And you can imagine having to organize your buses and their schedules according to size that you happen to have at that time. So I just kind of want to point that practicality out as we move forward, because here I've heard it numerous times. And it looks like we're moving into the future. I hope, that we'll have that money also for our, I guess it was on the last budget, but I think it's always important to point out that our operations and maintenance center has been in really critical condition, and it's really the first thing we need to look at, because if we don't have a place to put buses to expand, if we don't have an operations center that's operational and or at least a plan for the future, maybe multiple places. But that was always, to me, if we had the tax, we had to think about that. That would be the number one thing for us to be thinking about. And to tell you the truth, it's the biggest limiting, in my, to my knowledge, the biggest limit we have in the entire region to more transit usage is limited by the space where we can store and repair our buses.
Thank you. And seeing no further discussion, I'll just echo what I said at the beginning of these two items on our budget today, and that is that I appreciate very much staff's work on this and putting together clear presentations and allowing us the opportunity to get in early with board discussion and thinking about this in the process. Well done. And that takes us, so that was just a presentation without any action, and we'll keep moving forward. And if you have any other questions as we go, you can contact staff or bring them up in the procedures we'll be following for the budget. That takes us to item 6, back to Ms. LeGrand for procurement items.
Okay, yes, so again, as I mentioned, this is a pretty brief agenda today. We just really wanted to take the time to go over the amended budget and present the 22 budget. For the sole source update, we only have one item that was added to the list since we were here in July, and that's the precision transmission on June 14th for 26.9 that you see there, the last one. So in total, we're looking at our sole source awards, a little upwards of $1 million for this fiscal year. Again, the intention here is just so you know what we are working on and moving forward, and keeping a tally of what the total account is for our sole source awards. And not only just to share it, but if there are opportunities for us to do something different, this gives us the ability to look at everything in one place and recognize, what kind of awards are we giving out that is sole source? Are there opportunities to bundle these in other contracts moving forward? So it's a good way for us to, look at what we're doing and figuring out if there's a better way to do it. So that's that for the sole source award. Nothing more. If there's any questions, we can definitely answer those.
Seeing no questions or comments, Ms. LeGrand, it's still on you for the CEO report.
Okay, so this is again brief. As you can see, staff has been working diligently to really focus on this budget cycle. So there's a lot of activities that are required through state statute, as well as looking at federal statute associated with the funds that we're getting from the federal government. And we just wanted to make sure that this go-round that not only are we being very transparent, but we are engaging with the community where they are. So something else that we are doing with this budget cycle is going out to the community in their spaces, not asking them to come to us. And we have rolled out our engagement process for the budget so that we can get as much input as possible on the budget, educate people on what the budget is. There's a lot of information, as you were privy to not so long ago, and some of it is very technical. So it's, again, presenting it in a way that the community can understand where it matters to them, what's important to them, and gain their feedback. So just wanted you to know that this process is kicked off, and we feel really good about our approach. We're trying to do something a little more innovative and creating, if you will, an infographic that talks about, what a budget is, and kind of like if you remember Schoolhouse Rock, I'm a bill, I'm simply a bill sitting on Capitol Hill. So something similar to that on the budget. I'm a budget and, simply a budget. And what does that mean, and how do we go about that? And I have to give credit to Ms. Wright and her team for coming up with this approach. But we're hoping that, if we use some of the, something that worked for a generation, to present our budget to our community, hopefully they'll understand it. And again, the intention is to help them to understand what we're doing so it doesn't just seem like we're checking a box and going out and nobody really knows what these numbers mean. So again, I want to thank staff for getting out there and engaging with the community, and hopefully this approach well received. Outside of that, we're just, again, we have our heads down, we're working hard. I am happy to report, I did look at my, my report this morning before I walked in. I can say that since the first week of changing our schedule, which was June 23rd, we have not had any missed trips. So we have made pull-out every single day. So again, I want to thank all the operators, the mechanics, Scott Drainville and his team for making sure. Scott sent me an email, I think it was on Friday, late Thursday night. So in the wee hours of Friday morning, it's like, well, I'm a little shaky on what it's going to look like on Friday because, you know, we got paid on Thursday and, you know, it's Friday. So he was like, I don't know what pullout's going to look like. And I didn't even respond to Scott. I knew they had it. And, of course, I got the report and we made pullout. So they even surprised Scott. So, you know, but this is a testament to folks are showing up. It's the same team that we had for the most part, and they're committed to making sure that we're serving the community. So, again, I wanted to take this opportunity to thank the operators and the mechanics for ensuring that we're able to get out and meet our obligations. So, with that, those are all the updates I have for today, and we'll look forward to a robust conversation in 2 weeks at the Finance Committee. And please take some time and look at it, because it is a tentative budget. We do have the opportunity to make some changes if they're warranted, you know, for us to find ways to move things around. That's what this process is about, to get the input so that we can make the tweaks before it becomes a final budget. So please do, you know, do look at it and let us know what your concerns may be or questions that you may have so we can address them. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. And I've seen a lot of nods of approval and pleasure at the reports of your public outreach efforts, as well as the pull-out, the successes. So Mayor Castor, you're recognized.
Thank you. Congratulations, Adelie. That was absolutely wonderful. And to not have any misstops, I know that for some they may think that that's just a, you know, business as usual, but I think that that is a testament to your lifting of the morale of the entire group at HART. So thank you very much. And I also applaud the efforts to sort of bring in the community and simplify what you do every day in the service HART provides for our citizens. And to Commissioner Kemp's position, just trying to simplify things that, you know, buying smaller buses does not equate to savings. It's really making people understand the overall operation. So congratulations to you and the entire team. And I apologize for my earlier premature question about the 22 budget, and therein lies the lesson that I should not multitask. So thank you, Ms. LeGrand and the entire HART staff.
Thank you. Commissioner Kemp, you're recognized.
Well, I know we did a clap for the pull-out, but I think it's really important too. I mean, that what you did was right-size the service that we could provide, because we were over-promising and then not reporting what wasn't being done. And we had, that is not just a small thing, as I think we all recognize, but just a huge move of transparency. And again, I was very surprised to find what we were reporting was a very de minimis of late arrivals by buses, but we weren't reporting when the route just wasn't done. That somehow, you know, was not something that the board had information on. So without us having that information, and you went and corrected that, and I know we're giving somewhat less service, but again, right sizing is so important, being transparent, and you know, I feel like that we're in such good hands. So that is much appreciated as we move forward, and I'll look forward to looking over this budget a bit more, but I think we all know that HART is doing very, very well and deserves more resources. And so as we move forward, I think that is going to be something that we'll be looking at.
Thank you. And Seeing no further comments, I think the points are very well taken, that our success is attributable to new leadership as well as heightened morale and good management. And so I too feel like we're in very good hands. Moving on to through the end of the agenda, the chair's report, I have nothing to report today. General Counsel, Ms. Mandel.
Yes, again, good morning. I don't have anything to report today. Thank you.
And we have, the rest of the reports are in your backup. At this point, I ask for any old business. Mayor Castor, do you have your hand still up from before?
My apologies, it's down.
No problem. And any new business? And seeing none, we're adjourned. Have a good afternoon.